channel. Today I thought we might try something a little bit different. We are going to attempt to read Onision's future, do a little bit of divination on him, if you will. So what is my background in this, and is any of this stuff real? I'm sure you are probably asking. That's really kind of up to you to decide, obviously, like, you know what your beliefs are. I'm actually a pretty, like, overall scientific, skeptical person. But I do have my, like, experiences in life and my things that I do, regardless. And, like, nobody's immune to having, like, beliefs that are not purely scientific, honestly, even the most skeptical skeptic. So I come from a long line of people who have been involved in occult-related interests. So when I was younger, I just kind of naturally got into it because of that, and as a result, like, I just kind of have always gravitated towards doing this sort of thing and, making it somewhat a part of my regular life. Like, it's not, anything sinister or malicious or anything scary, basically. So what we're going to be doing is tea leaf reading specifically. It's the tea cup here. The tea itself is called Blue Sapphire, and it's basically black tea, but there's also, like, cornflowers in it, which you can kind of see, like, they're very pretty, they kind of float on top. And I thought this would be appropriate because sapphire is a gem that is meant to be for divination. We have, just kind of general wind-related stuff going on today because that is also corresponding with divination. And I'm an air sign, so there's that too. I kind of consider this to be one of my strong suits. I've actually not done a lot of tea reading specifically. It's kind of a newer thing to me, but I want to get better at it, so why not practice a little bit? So I can't necessarily say that it's going to be accurate. Obviously, like, as a big disclaimer, I can't say for sure, like, what is going to happen in Greg's future, obviously, like, nobody can. But I can, do this little ritual and interpret the tea leaves and tell you what they say, and maybe those things will be true, maybe they'll resonate, maybe I will not get an accurate reading for whatever reason. But ultimately, this is just for the purpose of entertainment, I would say. And my own curiosity, mostly. Like, honestly, that's kind of 90% of it. So I've been letting this tea steep for a little bit. And I'm gonna drink it. So step one is I have to drink the tea, and then we're gonna read the tea leaves afterwards. So I'm not gonna make you guys sit here and, like, watch me slowly drink tea. So I'm just gonna, like, I'll see you guys after I'm done drinking the tea. So, all right, we're down to just, a few tea leaves essentially. So this is hopefully what we have to work with. So we're gonna go ahead and try to get something interesting out of this. Grega, James Jackson. I think that's probably the best we're gonna get. There's a few various rules for reading. First of all, the handle is essentially the subject of the reading, so in this case, Greg. Things that are close to the top are things that are imminent and about to happen. Things that are further down are, like, maybe months or so away, and then things at the very bottom are kind of like a long-term, over a course of several years. They're generally not super long-term readings in general, but yeah, usually like months to years. This one has a lot of stuff right at the top. Most of it is right at the top. The first step in doing this kind of thing is really to kind of take it in and just see if anything really jumps out. And I will show you guys what this looks like just for, for kicks. So this is kind of what the inside of the cup looks like right now. So you can see how, like, everything has gathered up at the very top here. That's an interesting occurrence. And by interesting, I mean it's not, like, rare or anything in particular, but, So let's see. There's a lot of a lot of particles, particularly in the middle. At the top is really where the most interesting shapes are. Also, another thing of note is you may have noticed the symbols on the inside of this cup. They do have some relevance, so if something is over a particular symbol, that symbol can give it some context, like they mean different things, basically. So the ones that are mostly covered are the spade, the snake. I can't quite see what the middle one is, so I'll have to check in the book. And then further down is the symbol of Mars, which Greg is a Scorpio, so that's something. And that's pretty much it. Just those ones are like mostly covered. There's a little bit of stuff on the like diamond, but I don't really think the diamond is part of this. I feel like the most prominent shape that also jumps out to me is this really big one that's like, it's partly over the snake and it's partly over whatever this second one is. Let me check. Because that's probably important. It really looks like a big animal of some sort. Like a bear, perhaps. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Horseshoe. Horseshoe is next to the snake. Okay, so this is mostly over the snake and the horseshoe. Okay, I think I've studied this enough to get a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. So the first one, just going in order of most recent things to less recent things, obviously. The first one is this symbol right here is very interesting to me because it's distinctly something. And it's over the spade square, which the spade square represents legal matters, so that seems really fitting right now, honestly. My interpretation of that symbol is that it kind of looks like a bridge or a castle, some kind of structure like that that is like crumbling. So, you know, a castle is something that is meant for protection, and a bridge is something that you use to move ahead in life. So if something like that is crumbling in this image, then it would be sort of an indication that those things are falling apart. So like your protection, your fortress, if you will, is like falling apart. That being over the spade symbol is pretty interesting, considering the legal events that are going on. So yeah, spade is 100% about legal matters. The next one is the snake. Oh. Hi. The snake is a symbol of something that you need to watch out for, basically, like something that could get you, basically. Something that seems a little innocuous, but can strike at any moment, essentially. It's often meant to be a warning sign for somebody among the people that you know that you shouldn't trust. Like, you know, as in the saying that someone is a snake. So it's essentially someone who's like two-faced or something. And over that symbol, what I see, you know, like I don't want to just call it a wavy line because it looks to me like birds. And birds are definitely like a commonly occurring symbol when doing like this kind of reading. There's two birds, and they sort of are in a struggle from my view. And they're right over this snake. So it kind of interprets like there's some kind of conflict going on with someone that is not trustworthy to Greg, because this is for Greg. It's not us, you know, calling him untrustworthy, which he is obviously, but someone in his life is a snake, and this is leading to some kind of conflict. Now, birds in general represent messages, so like news, basically. This could be that he's hearing bad news from someone that he doesn't trust, or that bad news is because of someone he doesn't trust. And just, you know, as a reminder, this is the immediate near future, not things that have already happened, and not things that will happen in like months from now, but like pretty soon. So yeah, there's also the kind of bird can be relevant. To me, it kind of looks like a dove fighting with a raven specifically. That's a little iffy. Doves are meant to be like a peaceful symbol, and ravens are meant to represent feeling stressed, so it could also be that sort of a dilemma, like an internal conflict. But to me, I think personally, it's probably that someone in Greg's life that is betraying him causes him to get some bad news. So, I mean, that doesn't seem unlikely given the scenario. The next one, like, it kind of looked like an animal to me. I mean, it definitely is an animal. Kind of looked like a bear. Bears are like a grumpy figure, basically. But they're also considered like pretty strong and determined. The other thing is that it, to me, like it definitely has like an extra appendage, like wings. So I would say it could also be a dragon. And a dragon is a very particular kind of symbol as well. That's just, you know, my view. Like I said, I mean, if you guys see this, you might not see it, but I mean, I'll outline all of the things that I'm saying, like at the end whenever I'll like bring up the picture of the cup again and like kind of outline what I'm seeing, so you can kind of see what I mean. And it's really up to the person viewing it, obviously. So you may get something totally different out of this, but I feel like the wing is not a coincidence, and that it would be a dragon. Now, according to the book, what dragons mean, because I haven't seen a lot of that one, something may or may not be what it seems in your life. The dragon is a master of illusion, trickery, and showmanship. Beware get-rich-quick schemes, flashy strangers, and seductive acquaintances when this creature appears. So that does seem interesting. This is over the horseshoe symbol. The horseshoe symbol is supposed to be a sign of luck, essentially. Generally good luck, but I think with something like that, the message could be interpreted that it's something that's too good to be true. So like something seems like good luck, but is actually an illusion or a trick, or potentially a very badly executed get-rich-quick scheme, if you will, which, again, like, Greg is really good at those, I mean, let's be honest. So going further down, now again, when we go down, this is, like, several months away, not necessarily the immediate current future. So what I definitely see at first glance is a tornado. Tornado, I think, is probably somewhat self-explanatory, and it's specifically over the symbol of Mars. Oh, I was wrong. It's not over the symbol of Mars, it's over the symbol of Venus. So Venus obviously is love, essentially. So this would denote something in his love life, actually, several months from now. Now, is he getting a divorce from Kai? I honestly don't believe that's happening, so it could have something to do with that. But, yeah, something drastically different, something that's a really big shake-up that has to do with love. So, and then at the very, very bottom is where I see kind of just a few random little things. I see a crab, or I did at the beginning. It's kind of dissipated now that I've just been talking so much. It's started to move around because, you know, gravity. But I definitely did see a crab, and I also saw a bird, and the particular kind of bird to me looked like a vulture, because it was like, it took me a second to kind of recognize it as a bird because it had this sort of like long, you know, bit. So again, I'll like outline this stuff at the end. A vulture is a different meaning than just general birds, of course. It's not wholly negative, like most things in these kinds of readings are not, because a vulture can be very good at survival and resilient. But they do feed on dead things, and that is generally perceived in this particular kind of divination as being a sign of enemies or negative people, essentially. And again, this isn't referring to Greg, but to people in his life. So there's probably something in his life that is bad for him, I guess, or an enemy. Essentially, like, this is saying that he's going to have some enemies in the next few years. Possibly some very resilient enemies, or it is possibly saying that he is going to continue to survive, which, like, let's hope not, but I mean, you know, I'm just telling it like it is. Like, I'm not going to make it up and make it sound like he's going to get justice if that's not what I see. And again, it could be interpreted in many different ways, but yeah, a vulture, a creature that survives in harsh environments and feeds on dead things, so interpret that as you will for Greg's life. And then the last thing I will probably take a look at is this crab. Crabs can mean someone who is under the sign of Cancer. So like a person in Greg's life that is a Cancer. I don't know of anybody who is, but this is again several years in the future, so they may not have shown up yet. A crab can also mean somebody who approaches everything sideways, essentially. So somebody who does things kind of the wrong way, or goes about things in a way that is really different from most people, for better or worse. Which I would say Greg is one of those kinds of people. And this also means that you are someone who's very indirect. Like you can't just like approach things head on. It can also be someone who's very defensive and like clings to things. So like the claws like latch on to something. Like the past generally is kind of what it would be. Like you're clinging on to the past. You're clinging on to people in your life. So yeah, and this is again several years down. So this is at the very bottom of the cup. This is farther than the stuff at the top. So yeah. Sorry, I was just looking to see if there's anything else in the book, but that's pretty much what I see. So, a crumbling castle over the spades, which is crumbling defenses or, you know, fortress or something like that, in legal matters. Birds fighting over the snake, which is would be a bad message from someone that is not out for Greg's best interests necessarily. A dragon, which again is somebody who is making illusions or things that seem too good to be true over the luck symbol, so something that seems lucky but is actually not. Tornado over the love symbol, or the symbol of Venus rather, so some tumultuous things happening in the love life, big changes in the love life. The vulture at the very bottom, so survival, resilience, and eating dead animals. That is a relevant part of the interpretation, because there are people who feed on negativity or people who feed on those who are down. And this could be Greg, or it could be someone in Greg's life, so we don't really know yet because it's so far away. And then the crab, which again could be Greg or could be someone else in Greg's life, but someone who can't approach things directly, someone who keeps sidestepping them, someone who won't let go of the past and like move forward essentially. Or it could be a Cancer, someone in his life that's a Cancer symbol. So so that was my reading for Greg. Now I was thinking about doing a reading for Kai as well, and honestly, like, this is really good tea, so I totally am down for another cup. So I think I'm going to like reset this and drink another cup and see if I can get anything about Kai in it. So yeah, I will see you guys when I start steeping this. And welcome back. Here is another fresh cup of tea that we're going to be steeping for the next like 3 or 4 minutes. So I had to relight my incense. Now, normally you wouldn't want to use the same tea leaves for a different person, but because Kai is so tangled up with Greg, I feel like it's appropriate to do it in this situation. Like, I feel like it would actually be better than doing 2 separate, like, entirely clean readings. Another thing is, during the time that I was preparing the second cup of tea, I looked up Kai's birthday because I had forgotten what Kai's symbol was, and Kai is a Libra, which is actually ruled by the planet Venus. So that kind of makes the whole tornado over Venus thing really, really stand out to me, because like that means that there is definitely going to be some kind of change in their relationship, like a really tumultuous change in their relationship several months from now to maybe a year at the most. Like definitely more in the like 4 to 8 month range, I would say. I like have to drink with this thing, so I'm not like drinking leaves and twigs and stuff. Like, it's kind of gross. So this is how I drink it, filter it. All right. So I need to know what is going to happen to Taylor Anderson in the future. All right. So hopefully this will give us some more insight onto Greg's reading as well, because, you know, we'll see how they link together. So what is coming for Taylor Anderson? Ooh, that's a lot. Holy crap. Okay, so most of Kai's leaves are towards the bottom, so whatever is going to happen with Kai is probably not going to happen for a while. So He has been doing a better job than Greg of, not getting himself in trouble, so... Now, just like before, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what this looks like first so that, you can kind of see what I'm looking at. So yeah, a lot of shapes, and we will kind of talk about what different things I can pick out here. But yeah, as you can see, like most of it is down there instead of up on the rim like it was with Greg, so this stuff is not as imminent, essentially. Okay, let's see what I can pick out before they sink too far down. Okay, I think I've got some ideas here. I'm gonna be honest, there are a lot of signs in this one that are a little more fortunate than Greg's reading was. So it is quite possible that things will not be going quite as badly for Kai. But not all of them are. So let's see. And, they may be kind of contextually different. So the first thing that is closest, because again, we want to go closest, and this is like right at the handle, is one that I'm having a little bit of trouble interpreting offhand, but it kind of looks like a tortoise and a hare together. Well, like the hare is on top and then the tortoise is on bottom. Now, like, generally a hare means something and a tortoise means something. Like, a tortoise means to go slow with something. But, like, there's also this story, the tortoise and the hare. So this has something to do with patience and someone not being patient. Someone not being patient and someone being patient. And it's over the eye symbol, which is generally, like, insight, like looking at something from a different perspective. Hello, cat. Have you come to join us? So I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean, and it's very, very soon. It could also be a rabbit and not a hare. Like, that's just kind of what came to mind because of the story. If it's a rabbit, that's a fertility sign. I don't know if Kai is like pregnant or anything, but it could also just have something to do with their kids in general. It could also just have something to do with their kids in general, which I don't know if I want to get super into that, obviously, but it is there. It could also be a hare, and a hare would be something significant is brewing, a long journey and a transformation. So that kind of seems like it could also be relevant. My first instinct was a hare because, like, ear shape, I guess. Like, there's distinctions to be made with this sort of thing, like, as much as it is up to interpretation and imagination. So yeah, that is definitely a thing. Like, the turtle shape is much further down, but they seem very interconnected at the same time. So I would definitely say that there's some big change happening in Kai's life, and it may involve the children. And then the other thing that is up top here, now, so there's a symbol over the cup. There's a shape over the cup symbol. The cup symbol is like celebrations and things like that. But the shape that I'm seeing is very distinctly like a cleaver. It looks like a cleaver, so I'm gonna go with knife, essentially, as an item that I'm seeing. Now, the knife is obviously a major warning. So it says, the knife is a symbol of, a warning symbol against sharp words, negative thinking, or risky ventures. When the knife signifies something in your life, or someone in your life, this person is not to be trusted with your intimate secrets or tender feelings. You will be wounded if you are too trusting or naive. So there's a lot that could be said about that, if the knife is Kai or if it is Greg. But it being over the cup symbol means that, I'm guessing, this will happen at a party or a celebration or something like that. Something that's meant to be a good occasion is going to end up having some betrayal and some verbal abuse. That's kind of what I'm getting out of that. Okay. There are a lot of things on the middle. So let me see. We'll start again. You always start with where the handle is, because that is the person that the reading is about. So again, the first thing I see down there was the tortoise, which is basically like taking something slow and kind of easing your way into something, basically, which is generally considered a good tactic. It's also patience, but it's also generally considered a good sign, like it's a good luck symbol, basically. So I don't know what that means. And then right next to that is, to me, this looks like another castle symbol like Greg's, but in this case, it's much more stable and like built up. So I would say that it has the opposite meaning, that it's some kind of shelter or protection. Yeah, and it's also over the moon symbol. The moon in this case is referring to kind of dreams and intuition, and feelings and things like that. I don't know what Kai's dreams are like, so I can't really comment on that one too much. The next one I see is a star. It's a very distinct star, and it's right over the Mars symbol. So again, this is actually the Mars symbol this time. I promise, I know my astrology. And the star is a wish, basically. Like, it can be a wish that is happening or a wish that you have or something like that. And this is, again, like within the middle ring, so like within the next couple months or so. Mars is, again, probably connected to Greg because Greg is a Scorpio and Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So, and again, this also could just be war and conflict, but I doubt that Kai wishes for those things. Maybe he does, I don't know, but it definitely has something to, I feel like it has something to do with Greg because it seems so obvious to me. Don't know what it is, but something that Kai wishes for with Greg might happen, basically. The next one is, I'm thinking a whale. A whale would be opportunities expanding, basically, or like an expansion of some aspect of your life, really. Like, you know, kind of something that I'm noticing here, actually. Okay, this is something that I'm just now piecing together with these. So the castle, while it is like protection and stuff like that, can also be being very sheltered. Like, you won't kind of leave or like having too many boundaries, basically. We all know that Kai is probably very controlled by Greg, and it's possible that Kai wishes to not be as controlled by Greg and wishes to expand his horizons a little bit, and that will happen. It's already kind of happening because Greg doesn't really have any other choice. Like, Greg kind of needs Kai to help be a breadwinner at this point, I've noticed. But it might be that that's something that Kai wants and therefore will benefit him. So that's kind of looking good, honestly. The next thing that I see is a flock of birds, and I would say that they look like a flock of vultures to me because they have like the long neck. But again, birds would be travel, or a flock of birds would be messages. It could also be travel, and again, vultures being, you know, possibly a symbol of Greg. They are over the Jupiter symbol, and then they also go to the Venus symbol. And again, the Venus symbol is probably Kai, because Kai is a Libra, and that's the Venus symbol. And it's kind of going, yeah, it's going from the Mercury across Jupiter and to Venus, or vice versa, really, depending on how you interpret it. But and Mercury is like socializing, communication, travel, things like that. Jupiter would be also probably long distance relationships, and like encounters, and then Venus is like love. So I'll get a little more into that as I go down, but yeah, that's definitely like some kind of a relationship forming. Probably one that is not someone close by. We all know how they have a tendency to like fly people over to them or whatever, so I don't know, it could have something to do with that. The next one, like, I kind of had to look upside down to see it, but I definitely see a snail. A snail is a good luck sign. Again, like I said, like, these are good luck signs, so, I mean, like I said, I'm just gonna tell you guys what I see. Like, I'm not gonna make stuff up. If it's not bad, then I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it's a snail, and it's over Saturn. Saturn means self-discipline, responsibility, hard work, some kind of a test, or a need to make some area of your life more efficient. And I would say that the snail is probably directly related to that. But yeah, it's like always like a slow kind of progress symbol. There's a lot of those on here, I feel like. So it feels like there's something here is saying that Kai has been really holding out for something that is imminently going to happen within the semi-near future. I see a lot of knots next to that. Knots are like tension, essentially, you know, like anxiety, kind of generalized. There's a lot of more general ones in this one, I feel. Not as many like specific animals and stuff. Knots and tangles. Generally things that are like interfering with progress. Which again, progress is a kind of a big thing here, like very slow progress, something interfering with it. The knots are over the sun. Sun is generally like a success sign or something kind of being more warm and positive. So further down, there are a lot of big blocky shapes which have kind of their own meaning, but also there is distinctly a triangle. And triangles have their own special meaning as well. Now, the context for the triangle means, like, is a big thing. So this one is kind of among a lot of more rocky shapes, essentially, so I would interpret this as a negative sign in this case. And this is in the very distant future, like, not super, super distant, because, again, these are very, like, short-term readings when it comes to tea leaves, like, they just are like that. So probably, like, a year. Generally, a triangle is like a good luck from an unexpected source if it's on its own, but if it's among like these sort of rocky shapes, it will mean more like betrayal, or like someone taking something away from you or backstabbing you, or basically something unpleasant like that. It can also represent a love triangle, and this one is also partially overlapping with the Mars sign on there, so. Again, love triangles are something that they're not new to, so that to me seems like a pretty likely interpretation, especially with like all these like other rocky symbols around it. It definitely means like somebody that Kai trusts and admires is going to hurt them, and there will probably be a love triangle involved. Big surprise, I know, right? But this being in the future, like in the most distant future of this cup, like, it seems kind of like they maybe are not learning their lesson. I don't know. A little past that, I see a wedge among all these like rocky shapes. Now, a wedge is something that kind of gets in the way, basically, like a block to something that you're doing. Basically, like something keeping you stuck somewhere or someone. Now, these general kind of blocky shapes are definitely like difficulties or problems, basically, that come up. And the last thing that I distinctly see is an hourglass. Now, an hourglass means the clock is ticking, basically. Like, it's pretty obvious, kind of. It means that, generally it means, like, something is going to elapse, like, majorly. So generally it means you should act quickly, and given all the other symbols in here, it doesn't seem like acting quickly is what Kai does. Kai moves more slowly and more patiently. So this might cost him something in the future. But yeah, there's definitely going to be like a major time limit that comes to a close. Because in this case, the hourglass is empty. Like, it's becoming empty, as opposed to being mostly full, so. And again, that's like the last symbol, basically, so that's like the furthest thing away. So yeah, it's a very interesting journey. I would say like Kai's inner workings are far more complicated than Greg, like that's for sure. Like there's a lot more going on here, so take that as you will. Now, I also thought it might be fun to do a little tarot reading as well, just because like why not, we're already here, and I have my deck, so let's see if we can get, I mean it's not going to be like a super long one or anything, but just kind of some general information about Kai and Greg's future. Let's see. What is coming for Kai and Greg in the future as a couple? Not just like their relationship, but their business workings together and their home life together, their established family. What is coming? It's coming for Taylor Anderson and Greg Evero. Greg and Kai. We have Judgment. Oh, that seems appropriate. So, yeah, this card basically means, you know, it means what it sounds like it means. There is some kind of moral judgment coming So it can be a lot of like self-judgment, self-reflection, either that's happening or that's not happening in some cases because it's supposed to happen. Ultimately, it is very close to the end, basically. So it is. Um, it's like the final stage before an ultimate culmination, essentially. Usually, for most people, it's a good thing. It could be a bad thing. It can be really. It depends on how you interpret your life. So, um, if you're taking the messages, if you're like listening and you're reflecting on yourself, then it can be like you go to the next stage where you're a totally different person. You have like a paradigm shift. If you're not, um, if you're not doing those things, then it can really be a place where you get stuck, and the next stage is not so good. So it really depends on what they do, I guess, at that point. Like if they heed, if they heed these words or not, which we all probably have our suspicions about that. So, um, so I'm gonna do probably 2 more total, like 3 total. All right, Greg and Kai, Greg and Taylor. Oh, there we go. We have the 8 of Cups. So we have the 8 of Cups. So this is a balancing card, obviously, like equilibrium. Sorry about that. My phone alarm went off and I had to cut. So anyway, 8 of Cups. Importantly, the person in the picture is blind, or she has her eyes closed, rather. This is part of the message. Cat. This basically is a card to represent trying to leave something behind, trying to escape something, or turning your back to something. It's very much about escapism and getting away, not, you know, necessarily how you should be getting away, but like avoiding things. Yeah, mostly just leaving things behind, kind of turning your back on things. Hello again. And trying to escape something, basically. Just trying to pretend like it doesn't exist, essentially. Alright, one more. I can't shuffle the cards when you're rubbing your face on my hand. Are you gonna be my familiar today? Oh, I got 2. Let's see what we got. We have the 5 of Swords, and we have the Emperor. The Emperor is a controlling male figure. It's often a Scorpio, so that is generally... this is probably a representation of Greg, I would say. Yeah, these are appropriate cards. So, the 5 of Swords is essentially competition, failure, fights, basically, like really big conflicts. And the Emperor is, again, authoritarian male figure, dominating, symbol of Aries with the rams and whatnot, Aries being the ruler of Mars, Mars being a Scorpio. I would say 100% this is Greg. Like, so I would say with these 2 cards falling out together specifically, this is probably an indication of Greg's failure, to be honest with you, because this is a failure card. So when this comes up, like, yeah, something is not going to go well, and there's going to be a lot of conflict involved. I have my doubts about whether or not Kai and Greg are really getting a divorce right now, especially after like him lying about it so many times. But I will say, I have now seen multiple signs that there is something that's going to go off in their relationship, basically, because in Greg's teacup, he had the tornado over the Venus symbol. In Kai's teacup, she has this flock of birds of like transition, over her like various relationship symbols. And not only that, but a love triangle as well. And then there's this conflict card, which often means like a conflict with people that you are close to usually, but you know, it can be a conflict with anybody. Like obviously Greg getting into a lot of conflicts is like not a surprise to anybody. But the fact that there was also the Judgment card and the Eight of Cups, so Eight of Cups being leaving something behind, and then Judgment being moving on to a different stage, like it is entirely possible that Kai will get tired of dealing with Greg and move on to something else. I don't really see anything in any of these readings that show that Kai is going to actually get like go to jail basically. I mean, there's, you know, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It could just be like something that's a little too specific. But I do kind of basically get the impression that a lot of bad stuff is going to be happening to Greg, and Kai not so much. Like Kai is going to move on to have like a different kind of life, is the impression that I'm getting. Like that's kind of just what I'm hearing, and it does seem like they're probably going to split, either temporarily, you know, or for good. Can't really tell. And there's probably going to be another person involved in their life, like another third person, somebody who's far away again. Yeah, there's definitely like way more changes coming in Kai's life than in Greg's, so I find that very interesting. Whereas like Greg's is very blunt and very like negative, you know, just like failure and bad stuff. Like Kai's readings are a lot more like kind of spiraling, I guess. Like a lot more things happen, a lot more positive signs are in them. So yeah, take that as you will. Alright, so that was this video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you like enjoy this kind of thing, you know. I kind of want to do this sort of thing for like other popular famous people on the internet, because I don't know, it's really interesting to me to like try to like see what, you know, like appears in these kinds of readings when it's about people that we all know as opposed to just like an individual person. And I don't know, it's just kind of interesting and fun. So again, I don't know for sure that these things are true. They might happen, they might not happen. I mean, you know, they're kind of vague, so like these kinds of things can happen to anybody really. But yeah, so let me know in the comments what you think. And then if you could also hit the subscribe button, that would help me out as well. And give me a thumbs up if you don't mind. So yeah. Hopefully there are good things in your future. Hopefully your future is better than Greg's. So, yeah. Also, by the way, I thought I was the only person that had thought of doing this, but I found out last night, like, well after I had planned this video, somebody else also had this idea, so I'm going to link to her video down below as well. I think it's also very interesting if you're into, you know, divination and, like, things like that, and specifically on celebrities and specifically on Greg. Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting reading, so if you like this, then that also might be up your alley. Bye!